have, as a Christian, you have to live your convictions based on the Word of God, based on your relationship with God, and based on the assignment. I always tell people this right here. I say, what is your assignment?
Right. That's exactly right.
So if your assignment is not to be a Christian comedian or be a gospel comedian, you don't see it as a ministry, I say fine.
Right, exactly. But we made that clear from the very onset. We're not coming on here telling y'all to call yourselves Christian comedian. Because what you need to understand, many of you are calling yourselves this and you don't look like this. And so that was the question. And he felt attacked. And attacking him was not something I had planned. That was not. And he said, I ambushed him. I didn't. He asked me to come on.
What's up, family? Welcome to the Akintunde Show. This is a special show. Something we haven't done before, ever. And I figured with this lady being here, what a perfect time to, because I've been wanting to do one of these for a long time, but we just hadn't gotten it done. I said, no, I got it. Chinitta coming. I got to get you on. What's up, sis?
Hey, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, you did your thing tonight. Let me just say that. Listen, y'all, Chinitta just headlined. For the record, went over her time a good
of course.
A good 12 minutes. Pure Atlanta uptown headliner style.
Look, because do you know how often we get to do like a club setting? And so this is I'm sorry. I apologize, but not really.
But not really. Sorry, not sorry. But no, you did your thing. Hilarious set. Shout out to Don Garrett feature for the night. Even comedian Travis Lankin, who comes through and supports and does time, but tonight just came through to support and watch you and support Don. But no, you did your thing. And
Thank you.
And when we this used to be a renter center. Mm-hmm. So when we did all the renovation, we started looking at it. I see what this looks like. I said, because this wasn't really intentional.
Right.
I said, this looks like uptown.
Right, yeah.
Except for the balconies. A lot if you all the comedians, if you've been doing comedy 15 to 20, well 20.
Yeah.
Because how long ago did the old club, the original Peachtree Uptown Comedy Corner?
that was the 90s. That was early 90s.
Right.
I started in 1990, so it was early 90s, and so I was like, I felt at home. The setup is beautiful, and I'm really so proud of you because, it's I've been doing Christian comedy now for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And to come into a place like this that you have this comedy set up, no compromise. This was for the kingdom, but it's like being in the old school, like the old school, the way we came up, and it's just a beautiful thing. I was. Listen, my heart is full.
Wow, praise
God. So the comedians, look, y'all need to book your night here because this is comedy heaven over here.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Oh, you don't understand how much that blesses both of you. This and I know when she sees this, she's gonna be blessed by to hear you say that.
Yeah, this is comedy heaven over here. Listen, I can't wait to come back.
Wow.
Yeah.
And people gonna want you back because you did your thing. You were hilarious. And I'm sure maybe Jaleel will put a couple clips in there. But you did your thing, and it took me back to y'all. I always talk about Chinitta currently as a Christian comedian, like you said, over the past 20 years, but having the benefit of knowing you.
Yeah.
Into the early 1990s, I started in 93. So when I used to come to Uptown to showcase, to try to get a week, showcase to try to get on Comic View, showcase to try to get on Def Jam, Chinitta was one of the comics who would come through y'all and then bump you. So again, I'm saying Chinitta, but she was chocolate. So it's so you come up with like, hey, bro, hey, I got two more than I got you. All right. Then of course, and Pure Quake or whoever was hosting Fast, if it was Quake, hey, I got one more than you. Then it's like so I'm up next. I'm watching my man go do his thing. He did. Big Rome went up. Big Rome did good. Okay, all right. Who next? Okay, all right. Black Casper, he going up. Whatever. Then Chinitta comes in. Hey man, Chalk gonna go up. Chalk gonna go up. So now guess what? She going up. She doing just what she did tonight.
Going over.
And ripping the room. And then it's like, hey man, hey, bro, it's a little tight. We gotta get to the headliner.
Right.
Hey man.
Right.
Come through. I'm like, so
yeah. I mean, we all went through that. Though. Yeah. Trying to get on. We paid our dues too, so it just comes with the territory.
But so about that part of it, because now who your contemporaries when you started? Who started right along with you?
Oh man, let me tell you, my very first night in a comedy club was my very first night on stage, and that night, Angela Means, she was the MC for the first part of the show, the amateurs.
All right.
And so
she's from Atlanta?
No, but she was living in Atlanta at that time.
Okay.
She's from Detroit.
Okay.
And so I think she had been doing comedy maybe a year.
Okay.
And so she MC'd that part. And she brought me up, and then the second part of the show started, and Jonathan Slocumb opened for that.
Wow.
And then Jamie Foxx was middling.
Wow.
And D.L. Hughley was headlining.
Wow.
Yeah, and they weren't big at the time. They weren't big at the time.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, we remember when Jamie got In Living Color.
Interesting.
Yeah, we all celebrated with him when he got.
Wow. Yeah. See, so he found out where at Uptown?
Well, this was the Comedy Act Theater. Uptown wasn't.
Uptown so you started out at the Comedy
Act Theater.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Michael Williams was the first black comedy club in America.
And see, just moving forward for just a little bit, I'm going to come back to that. Mm-hmm. A lot of comics, I think, don't realize, which is why I have so much respect for you, not only the status and level that you reached before you made the transition, but also the history. Mm-hmm. The foundation that you came up with, that a lot of comics today, no offense, I'm not being the old guy talk about comics and all. I'm not doing that.
Right.
But I'm saying, that experience of coming up in clubs like that, like, first of all, that was a pure comedy club.
Yeah.
I never played Comedy Act Theater. It's legendary.
Right.
But that's a pure comedy club. And then to have that type of environment, when you talking about so that means you on stage and Jamie Foxx is sitting over there waiting to go up.
Waiting to go, and it was funny because I'm thinking, because this is my very first night on stage, my very first night ever even in a comedy club, and it was like 20 people. And Michael Williams was like, I thought it was gonna be full. He was like, listen, if you can make 20 people laugh, you can make anybody laugh.
Right.
And Jamie went up, and I don't know if this was his first night doing Wanda. But he killed it with that Wanda bit, and I think that was his first time ever doing it because he had the improv. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did he know was he talking like, was he prepared to do it, or he just kind of went into it?
I think he just kind of went into it because the crowd was so light, and when you have a light audience, you just kind of try stuff out.
Yep.
And so
Wow. That's legendary.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why it feels so good. Like, you guys were given the light, and I mean, you know how long it's been since we got the light.
Right. But and I tell a lot of comics who are not Christian comedians, or a lot of young comics who come up in the clean comedy, Christian comedy space, particularly if you do more predominantly churches, they don't understand the environment, the strict environment.
Right.
First of all, if you wasn't at a certain level, there was no pay.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, period.
Right.
You was glad just to get on stage. That's first thing. Secondly, you like when they said 5-10 minutes. Right. Oh, first of all, nobody would say 5 to 10.
Right.
Okay, a comic could tell you 5 to 10.
Yeah.
A club owner, it's 10 minutes or it's 5, and that's a hard 5. And it's like, why'd you go over?
Right.
But that environment, I think, prepares you in a way that just starting out without that structure doesn't. And I think a lot of comics, do you think a lot of comics today, particularly if they start out in this space, that they miss that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there was so much discipline that you had to have.
Right.
And that's why nights like this or rooms like this is very important, because the intimacy.
Yeah.
The intimacy of the audience, and then you get to interact.
Yeah.
You get to learn. You get to
crowd
learn.
Work, y'all.
Yeah, you learn to improv, and so I came from that. So that's easy for me because that's what I come from.
Yeah.
And if you do that, if you do churches a lot of people, they don't get that experience like that, where you can literally pick up somebody's cup on their table.
Yeah.
I've seen Monique do that, where she would pick up somebody's cup and drink out of it. And so it's a whole different experience, but the beauty of it all is that you do it for God's glory.
Praise God.
And you didn't compromise anything, and you had a full house, and everybody was loving it. And that's the beauty of it, because we try to say that this can't be done.
Right.
And you just proved that it can.
And well, I'll say this, to God be the glory, number one. Number two, I give Unissa and our team a huge to Ronnie, to Jaleel, Deja, Kalia, Judy, Corby, the entire team, Kalia, everybody who really comes and works the room to make it work, and then the supporters, our sponsors, and then the people who come and just like you saw tonight, like people buy tickets for next month, this month. Yeah. That's a value, and those people really make it worth doing it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to be honest with you, me and Unissa did this for 2 years, losing money.
Right. Yeah.
So we just got to a point where you make a small profit.
Right.
But then when you see the value of the room, and again, I know what it's like to not have this type of room on our schedule. If I look at my schedule, I think maybe, what's my man's name? Who is that? Tony Trott. Oh yeah. Tony Trott has a room it's bigger than this, but it's a comedy club type environment. Right. It's hard if you do Christian or gospel comedy. It's hard to get that. Willie, we came up in these type of environment. It's hard to get that today. Yeah. But going back to Uptown, and so what year did it spike for you? Because I remember when whatever that first 1 or 2 years of Comic View, right? It was a lot of comics from Atlanta was really like taking off and really became household doggone names. Right. Like even today, I'm outside getting ready for the show tonight, and we're doing something outside. And when I say outside, I'm out in front of the building. And dude came by. He said, "Who y'all got tonight?" I said, Chinitta Morris, Chocolate. Oh yeah, I remember her. Right. So what was that like? And kind of describe that when things really, you went from, I guess, trying to get stage time, and probably working some, or were you working some, and then all of a sudden you're on TV, and then
right. Well, first of all, Comedy Act Theater was before Uptown.
Right.
And then Def Jam was before BET.
Right.
So Def Jam was the one that, because I think people had already been telling BET they needed something like that, but they just slept on it. Yeah. And then Def Jam came, HBO came and did it, and it just blew up.
It blew up.
I had an unfair advantage, which I think a lot of us did during that 90s era, because and thanks to HBO and Def Comedy Jam and whatnot, and BET's Comic View, we had that avenue, because before then, black comedy was, you had a handful of black comics that were making it. Yeah. And here was this plethora of black comics that, weren't given. Yeah, it was an explosion in the 90s. Yeah. Excuse me. And so they would come to I did comedy for maybe a year and a half before I got my first TV.
So you did a year and a half before you got on Def Jam?
Before I got on Def Jam. And I'm not even sure it was a whole year and a half.
Wow.
Right. I just kind of came at the right time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Because I saw the first season, and I'm like, I can do that,
Right.
But I had already started doing comedy. I had maybe been doing it for a few months at that time. And I remember seeing Yvette Wilson and, and those were people who would come to the Comedy Act Theater.
Got it.
And so 2 weeks before I taped Def Comedy Jam, because Bob Sumner came and was doing the auditions there. Yep. And 2 weeks before I taped Def Comedy Jam, Earthquake was the one who gave me the name Chocolate.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've told me that story before. Go ahead, please retell that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Because I used to do a lot of jokes about my chocolate skin and Hershey's Kisses and all of that.
Yeah.
And people would see me out, and they'd be like, "You're the Hershey's Kisses girl," or "You're the M&M's girl." And so I think he and I were out and about one day, and he was like, "Why don't you just call yourself Chocolate?"
Wow.
Yeah. So
Quake, that's amazing.
And, because I was scheduled to tape Def Jam like 2 weeks after that, and it stuck.
So Quake 2 weeks before Def Jam.
Yeah.
Gave you the name Chocolate.
Gave me the name Chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he and I used to be thick as thieves, and actually I went to see him at one of the Coliseums, and he was like, "Girl, get over here! You know I gave you that name." And so
classic Quake.
Yeah. So he left tickets and stuff for us, and it was cool. It was good to see them.
I was when I saw his special, and it really blessed me because number one, it was funny.
Yeah, it was.
Like hilarious. Like he did his thing.
Yes.
And then number two, like you having been able to witness some of that journey.
Yeah.
And even though Quake has been killing it for years.
I mean, yeah.
But still sometimes you watch a comic, you know there's another level that's there, even though you clearly are successful.
Right.
And to see him hit that and hit it well.
Yeah.
You know. But that goes back to, I think, again, that goes to training. Yeah. So the year that you are essentially, what were you? Are you getting work on the road, or are you primarily open micing or hitting spots around Atlanta?
No, I had already gotten a little popularity at the comedy club.
Okay.
Because at one point I had to boycott because I had found out that the guys were getting paid more than I was, and they didn't have any TV time, you know.
Wow.
And so, but I had already, and so I boycotted to say I'm not going to be on the stage until, because I knew people were asking for me.
Right.
And so it just made me do the work to be booked other places, because I'm waiting to be on this stage every week and whatnot, and it was good. It was, you know. But they met my demand.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. And who owned it? Was that
Michael Williams?
Okay,
yeah, and he and I are still good friends to this day. Nice. And then Michael Williams was the first black comedy club, and then there was All Jokes Aside in Chicago that came with.
Beautiful room.
What was his name?
George Wilburn.
No, that wasn't his room. He used to host it. Right. But the guy, Raymond Lambert.
Yes.
Raymond Lambert.
What was his? Was his wife that booked it, or what? Or was it his? Or was it? What was the lady's name?
I can't remember her name. Oh man. But man, those times. I mean, to be booked at the Comedy Act Theater, All Jokes Aside, Uptown was just. And then not only that, just think about when you had the run from, remember they did that creative run. Because the white people began to get in on it when they saw the black explosion. And so now these clubs are opening their doors and giving one night. And so you had a run from Mississippi to New Jersey.
Right. Well, when you started, it was like, that's when it was like 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
By the time I did it, was probably about 5 or 6 years after. I started in 93, and I went full time in 95, 96.
Okay.
So 95. So, but by the time I did it, it was down to two weeks.
Man, but I'm telling you, you could do that run and come off of it with, $10,000 if you $15,000. See, by the time I got to it, it was down. It's still good money, because I remember, and a lot of comics today don't understand the value of this. And I'm not saying that again. I'm not trying to sound like we old heads, but we are. I was gonna say, but you are.
But you older than me, right? I mean, in comedy.
Yeah.
But I feel like that I think it was like $350 a night.
Well, it depends on what part you went in, because if you was the opener,
I was a feature.
Right. So the feature was getting maybe $350.
Right.
Headliner was getting maybe $500, $600, $700.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you're doing shows back to back every night.
Every night.
Man, do you know how strong you came off of that tour being?
I tell comedians all the time, it's two things that always made me stronger, and what would always frustrate me was, one, a lot of times it would happen after I taped the TV show. It was either doing Uptown or doing a creative tour. When Nate was booking it and Brad Greenberg had it. Yeah. Brad Greenberg had me and Tommy was laughing about this, because remember Brad's daddy had the club. Brad's daddy managed, Brad Greenberg's daddy, Abe Greenberg.
Right.
Remember Abe?
Yes.
You saw your face was priceless. Abe Greenberg. I mean, talking about just abrasive. Hey, listen.
Yeah.
25 minutes. And I mean 25. You know, he was this abrasive old white Jewish guy.
Exactly.
But you would do, but you're so right, because you like Tuesday night, where it started for me was Tuesday night in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And I think Wednesday was like in Greensboro or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday you might have a show, you might be off. Or either you might have a show Sunday and Monday you off.
Right.
And then it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. That's a lot of reps.
Man, I'm telling you, came off of there so strong because you had new material. Yes. Your stuff was so tight.
Yes.
And you made some money.
And those rooms were comic. Those were the type of rooms that made you stronger.
Yeah, they did.
It's certain rooms that when you do those rooms, you come out a better comedian.
When you had to go through Atlanta and you had to do 559 or something like that. Yeah, some rooms you dreaded now because you knew. Yeah. And you couldn't even sweat it if you didn't make it. How
did you do it at 559?
Terrible.
Did you?
Yes.
But you a sniper though. You still a sniper today, though.
Come on,
but back then,
come on,
you was a sniper.
But listen, 559, them people was not trying. I remember me and Earthquake and I think Sherman, Bruce, we did some college in maybe Tallahassee or somewhere like that. Them kids, first of all, they was dancing and everything before they started the comedy show. You can't do that to these kids. Never do that. Then you stop the partying to say, okay, we're gonna do some comedy. Yeah. All of us bombed that night. We watched them all we watched them fall, and we knew when we got up there we was coming down. Too. But we got our money.
Got your money.
Yeah.
And sometimes in times like that, when you know it's very little you can do about it, sometimes it's fun to bomb. It's like, well, you know what? Right. Let's take this L and go home and get these nice checks.
Right. That's
ain't
right.
Not like a college check. Yeah. But no, that was an interesting period. I mean, so it was Uptown. So when did you start? How did the transition for you from comedy act to Uptown go?
Comedy act, man, let me tell you, when we first started at the comedy act, okay, mind you, the night I started was 20 people.
Wow.
In just a matter of time, it wasn't long at all. The word got out about comedy act, and I'm telling you, it was the elites coming. You had David Justice, Halle Berry, Deion Sanders.
Wow.
You just had the creme de la creme coming up in there.
Yeah.
And these people would be wrapped around the corner waiting to get in. And this was every show.
Wow.
And year after year, it began to dwindle when some of the comics began to get really distasteful. And then Quake was opening his club.
Okay.
And it just wasn't good for the comedy act theater. And they were bringing in these young comics, and they up there taking off clothes and stuff, and people are like, this is not comedy.
Wow.
And Quake opens this club, and it's very classy.
Very classy. Peachtree, Buckhead.
Yeah. It's very classy, and it was. What could you do? Okay.
So, but I mean, mind you, I've never been. I only heard of Comedy Act Theater. So, what the Comedy Act Theater looked like? Where was it? It was in the middle. It was in the heart of Peachtree. Okay. Heart of Midtown. Okay.
And it was just this building. It was connected. Some other things was connected to it, but this was the main feature. Okay. On that block.
Okay.
And it was a lot like this. Bigger.
Yeah, bigger.
You know, it probably held about 4.
Wow.
Was it 4? Maybe 300.
Got it.
Maybe 300 people. And
balcony or what?
Like, no balcony.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And Atlanta was the second one because he started in L.A.
Right.
And he decided to open the one in Atlanta, but the one in Atlanta became more popular than the one in L.A.
Interesting.
So he would fly most of the comics from L.A. to headline in Atlanta.
Wow.
And I think I was the only one he flew from Atlanta to L.A.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I could be wrong, but I think I was the only one that he. It was a beautiful thing. It was just really, really nice. It was, like I said, it was a lot like this.
Wow.
You know, just bigger, you know, further back and whatnot.
Right.
But
did the Comedic have a DJ? Because Uptown had an energy to it.
It did. It had it. That was the thing. You went up to music, and that's another thing.
Yeah,
that
you did it tonight.
Now.
Yeah.
Because we used to, even with the Christian comedy, they would play music before we go on, and now they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I need to
that
praise
vibe.
a little bit. Before.
Because you did something tonight that a lot of comics don't do, but you went up and you sat in the song for a little while.
Yeah, because it gets me amped.
Yeah.
And I love that song. Most people, I've been going up to that Fred Hammond song for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think that how much of your success today, your staying power, do you equate? Of course, God but just on a purely on the natural side. How much of your staying power do you give to the way you started out, the way you came up, the environment, the different all these various different stages?
Yeah.
And when I say stage, I'm talking about these various types of stages.
Yeah.
You got Uptown, Classy, 559,
yeah,
Thugs, and
yeah,
the Devil.
right.
I mean, how much of that do you equate to you being able to still do it now? 30 plus years later?
Yeah, I'm really grateful for my upbringing. I think it has a whole lot to do with it. And I'm really grateful that I had that experience because it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. I was very young, had just graduated college.
Wow.
And I didn't even think about getting paid when I started doing comedy. I just wanted to do comedy.
Right.
You know, and they didn't pay me when I first started, you know. So they made sure that was okay. But I because of the way that we came up, because we did improv groups and we had the house MC, Chris Charles was just one of those guys.
Chris Charles,
man, listen.
Wow.
And he was notorious for sniping, dealing with hecklers, even if he wasn't
Charles
heckling.
Beast. Yeah.
And so we learned how to go off script.
Yeah, you had to.
Yeah. And deal with anything that we needed to deal with in the audience. You know, so.
You were capable. Uptown, and it's a few other clubs with that level of pedigree that they made you learn the fundamentals of comedy.
Yeah.
You had to have the gears.
Yeah.
And you couldn't just go up and just jump right into your set.
Right.
It's almost like the audience knew, oh, this is doing jokes already.
Right.
Oh no. It's like, no, you gotta like I learned Uptown taught me how to come into a city and pick the city.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I need a commercial.
Yeah.
I need something about the town. I need some type of reference.
A street.
A
project.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that these people know, okay, this dude going off the top of his head. He's relevant.
Right.
He's observed the environment.
Yeah.
He's not just coming in and jumping into his set.
Yeah.
And now a lot of cities, particularly mainstream cities, they almost will tell you, hey, trying to get go ahead and get to it,
Yeah.
But Uptown was one of those cities, I was in the room the night that Earthquake did the Muhammad Ali joke for the first time. When he said, when Muhammad Ali, so Muhammad Ali carries the Olympic torch.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, I'm not making fun of Muhammad Ali. I'm just telling you, this is what the joke was. This is what happened. This is history. Muhammad Ali carried the torch, and he has Parkinson's.
Yeah.
And he's doing this thing. Earthquake.
Yeah.
I'm featuring. I forgot who. I might have been Zoom Man. I'm featuring. I get to the club. Earthquake said it. How many of y'all saw Muhammad Ali? That He talking about, man, that nigga was big head bouncing. I mean, of course he winds up doing that on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, Uptown was an environment that fostered that type of raw, just improv, that you to be relevant in the moment. Yeah. If somebody says something, if somebody did something, you can't gloss over it.
Yeah.
No, you got to deal with that because now the audience
even just going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You just gonna get up in the middle of my set. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but those years, and I think that's something that the comics today who are on this side, who do this brand of comedy that we do, whether they just do it clean or whether they profess to be a Christian comedian, but the ones who came up through that era or had some exposure to that environment, it's a different. I think it's a different outcome.
I think that I'm grateful for all of the comedy clubs, the Comedy Act Theater, the All Jokes Aside, and the Uptown Comedy Corner, and Peppermint Lounge, and those other black clubs that gave us a stage and helped us hone our skills. I'm just really grateful because I remember looking for a stage, and there were only white comedy clubs, and you call these places and they would say, well, I need a video before I can let you on. And I'm thinking, well, how can I get a video if I can't get on stage? So for these clubs to come up, and all of them played a part in all of us growing in our comedy skills. And so, just kudos to them because, man, without them having those visions and doing what they did, where would we be?
You're right. I mean, to your point, I remember you being in those clubs and you got these, Samore, Quake, Don D.C. Curry. All these people are coming in through Atlanta. Either they based in Atlanta or they coming through Atlanta, and they just going up. And of course, nobody ever knows what's going to happen for somebody's career. But it was like that early 1990s. It's amazing. Many of the current headliners in comedy came from that early 1990s era. Of course, a lot of comedians have come since then. A lot of folks has come and gone. But that early 1990s era was definitely a comedy boom. Chris Tucker,
Mike Epps.
Yep.
Bruce.
Yep.
Just everybody. I mean, who else? I mean, it's very few comedians you can name that's doing well today that did not come through the Comedy Act Theater, that did not come through All Jokes Aside, that did not come through Uptown. I mean, I used to love Jamie Foxx and Bernie Mac were two comedians that when they came to the Comedy Act Theater, all of us young comedians was there every night. We knew every joke, and every time the joke was still funny.
Okay, you got to talk about that for a minute. Because I think so many times I've seen comics, young comics. I ain't soapboxing, y'all. But I've seen young comics tell me, oh, man, you inspired me and da-da-da-da. And then you don't watch the show. Like, I used to consume the headliner set. Like I watched Steve Harvey do 8 shows. And I think I was like, I think I probably was 8. Like I hosted and then went and sat down.
Because you learning.
You learning. Yeah. How dare I walk out? How dare I go home? Yeah.
No, we were there. Trust me. When we say we ate, slept, and breathed comedy. Yes. Listen. But Jamie and Bernie were two that when they came, you were just like this.
Wow.
You laughing the whole time. Right. You know the joke.
Right.
And don't let Bernie do that. Take. I say take.
Oh,
take. Man, we knew all of it, and we had to be there every night.
I remember one time years ago, I did like a mini tour with Bernie Mac. Tone X was the host. I wouldn't call it a feature. I just came out second. My set was so tight. I probably like maybe 10 minutes, if that. Chris Spearman was his manager at the time and was booking him. And I remember Bernie Mac. Now this is way before Kings of Comedy. This is way before anything with a TV show he sold out Fayetteville, North Carolina, and then I was like, yo, dude sold 3,500 seats. Then the promoter comes back, Chris Spearman, he's talking about, hey, just found out Savannah sold out. I was like, what?
Wow.
Johnny Mercer Theater in Savannah, Georgia?
Yeah.
Wasn't nobody else on the show. Was Bernie. Like, nobody knew who me and Tone was.
Yeah.
Our name wasn't in none of the advertising. Of course, nobody. I mean, particularly me, I wasn't doing nothing at the time. But my point of saying all that was like to watch him.
Yeah.
I'm talking about beast.
Yeah.
A room. I'm talking about like raw. Yeah. It's like. But again, watching comics perform at that level.
Yeah.
And then a well-versed, a well-exposed black audience who is equally smart and hip at the same time ain't gonna give you. That's the thing about another thing about Uptown. I'm sorry, I know we're going on a lot about that Uptown and comedy, but I don't think that value that you get out of performing in those type spaces, they prepare you in a whole other way.
They do, yeah. I mean, you're more disciplined because like that light. Yeah, come on. Yeah. And like sometimes when you get it too much, you're like, I see the light. You ain't acting like you see the light, and I'm gonna keep giving it to you until you get your butt off. Yeah. So you gotta address stuff like that. Because if you don't, truthfully, the light kind of throws you off if you're nervous and whatnot. But I mean, it grows you up exponentially. Yeah. And you learn so much from the intimacy of your audience, being able to look them face to face and, even sometimes dialogue with them. And so, but like you, Bernie used to take me on the road with him, and I used to love touring with Bernie. Wow. And so, of course you miss him and, but I was a part of that legacy because he took me on tour with him. Wow. And you had the Chris Tuckers. I remember when Chris first started coming to the Comedy Act Theater, he was blowing it up from the very onset. Yeah. And like 6 months later, he was like, I'm moving to LA. And of course you had your haters that was like, oh, he think he all that. He gonna be back. Yeah. LA ain't no joke. You can't go out there. Yeah. And I remember calling him on the day that he left, and it's like, dude, go do your thing. Wow. God bless you. Wow. The dude went out there and blew all the way up. Blew all the way up. I remember being on the road, and me, Monique, and Steve, her brother Steve Imes, went to see Friday. And that's when me and Mo raced in the movie. That's a whole other story. But just to see, like we went to see, we was like, okay, that was really good. I was like, had no idea. Right. I mean, had no concept of what the film was going to do. I mean, it changed literally everybody in that movie changed their lives. Yeah, like exactly. On a whole other level. But let's fast forward a little bit. So what for you becoming a Christian comedian? What was that like? What was the process like? Because I remember, I don't know where you were in your journey. I've told this story several times. But you were, what were we doing? It was some type, was it a tour or a one-off where I was just like opening up for this, it was something pretty significant. It was a bunch of comedians on the tour, on the show. It might have been a one-off, but it was me and you in the airport together. And you were like, I don't know. And you were saying like, man, I don't know. I don't know if you say, I don't know if I want to do this or I don't know if I can do this. And now again, you got saved and I got saved probably, I don't know, 5 years later, and then probably another 2-3 years before I actually made the transition. But I remember I was thinking to myself like, what is she talking about? I'm like, man, that's a lot of god doggone money. Like I know I got a nice little chunk of money tonight. I can only imagine what you got that night. Right. And you were saying like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm like, what the heck? Like, what is she? And I think I was, cordial, but I still was like, you're right. What is she even talking about? What was that process like for you to say, I'm doing? Now you ain't dropped the mic and leave, or did you? Or you just made a heck of a hard shift. It was a hard shift. I didn't see it coming. I was picking my daughter up. I had a nanny. She used to take my daughter to the to Bible study with her, and because that was my night to go get my hair done. I used to have. She's had that. What was that cut? That asymmetric low cut. The pixie cut. That was a pixie cut. Yeah, pixie cut. Yeah. But and so one night they had a new pastor installed, and I heard him say, "Only what you do for Christ is going to last." And man, that thing just pricked my heart. I wasn't expecting that. And I went to my car, put my daughter in my car and got her situation. I sat there and I was like, okay, what that mean, God? Because I do a good thing. I make people laugh for a living. I don't even cuss. Well, I didn't think so.
I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
Because my cuss words was trifling bastard.
Yeah,
that.
That was.
Yeah, that, but before, and it took me a while to get there.
I see you.
Yeah. So.
That's still funny to me.
Yeah, I get that one all the time. So I'm like, oh. But no, and so, he said, but you don't do it for my glory. I didn't grow up in church, so I didn't know what doing anything for God's glory was.
Had you been going to church like prior to that? Were you saved or were you? I
confessed. I professed Christ.
Okay.
But I was doing what I wanted to do.
Okay, got it.
There were boundaries. There were certain things I wouldn't do. But for the most part, I did what I wanted to do.
Got it.
Got it. I didn't know anything about surrendering if I met another Christian who was really sold out, I'm like, okay, it don't take all of that.
Right.
Right, yeah. And so you might go back and look at some BET clips and see where I said, I want to thank God, and stuff like
a reference.
That. Yeah, But boy probably was about ready to bust hell wide open, And so when God pricked my heart that night, I realized that I was not living for him the way he wanted me to.
Okay.
The way I was supposed to be committed. And so, and I feel like it was a Saul moment because I had a heart for God. I prayed every day, and I did that since I was a little girl. Prayed every day, read my Bible every day. But I was not surrendering to God. Okay. And most of the stuff that I was reading, I came to realize I didn't understand it the way I was supposed to understand it. Right. And so that night, man, I was just so convicted. So when I started going to church after that. I would go to church every now and again, but it was like, okay, God, I went to church today. It was like, I did you a favor. Be pleased with me. Right. And that was really my attitude.
Almost like getting God off your back.
Yeah, and so it wasn't good. And so at that point, I was like, no, I gotta change my life.
But was there a lot of conviction going on?
It was great conviction. I knew, because I love the Lord, but I was just without knowledge. Okay. I did what I did ignorantly.
Got it.
And when I knew better, I knew I had to do better. I had a choice to make. I knew that this was going to cost me something. And I said, okay, I don't know how this is going to go.
And when you say, I knew this was going to cost me something, the decision, you were pondering the decision to essentially turn your whole life over to Christ.
Because for one, I hate hypocrisy.
Got it, yeah.
And I'm getting choked up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was going to cost me something. I knew I had to choose. I wasn't going to be. I remember going to Uptown after I had chosen Christ, and Don Curry saying to me, so you just don't come around no more, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I gave my life to the Lord. Well, you can't you can't be saved in the daytime and do comedy at night. And I told Don, I said, Don, if Chinitta's going to hell, chocolate is too. Oh. No, I said, if chocolate's going to hell, Chinitta is too.
Ooh,
so,
that's
yeah,
funny.
I remember him distinctly like, why you got to stop doing what you're doing? So I was like, yeah.
Was that pretty much the consensus across all of your peers, or were more people not talking to you about it?
They didn't really talk to me about it. But the ones that did, I could see the frustration. Like they like, what are you doing? We trying to get where you are.
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah,
I was like,
you're
what?
just gonna walk away, and they didn't understand. And truthfully, I don't know if I fully understood, but I knew where that there was a pull in my heart.
Yeah.
And truthfully, me following this pull felt better.
So when you were on the road, when you were doing comedy, whether that be TV, and to be clear, y'all, because I've said this before to other Christian comedians, you was making that money, okay? I'm talking about that real money,
right?
Okay, and so when you're experiencing that, was there a big? Were you going back and forth on the road in your mind, or were you kind of like, was this kind of more of a slow burn, a slow build, or were you just like struggling, going back and forth?
I know there was no struggle for me, because when I decided to give my life to the Lord, I immediately changed a lot or took some comedy out that I knew I could no longer do.
Gotcha.
First thing God told me I had to let go was the N word.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the N word had to go, and that was my crutch. I wasn't a cursor, but that N word was in there strong. That helped every punchline.
Yeah. Well, what it does is certain words that make you more edgy, relevant to particularly to a more hip hop or more urban black, traditional black, hood black, even a suburban black audience. So God told you to stop saying.
That was like the first thing I had to, and then I was still doing the trifling bastard, and I came across, I was at the airport one day, I think I was in Baton Rouge or New Orleans or somewhere like that, and this girl was like, "Aren't you that chocolate comedian?" And she said, "Didn't you get saved?" And I said, yeah, I got saved. And she said, "So you don't cuss no more?" I said, "Well, I never did curse." And she said, "Well, you used to say trifling bastard." I said, "But that's not a curse word." She said, "It is in the context you use it."
Yeah.
And from that day forward, I put it down.
Wow. Okay, see, those are God moments.
Yeah.
Where God just orchestrates an encounter.
Yeah. See, we can fight all day and try to justify what we do wrong, but the Bible tells us not to cause other people to stumble.
Yep.
And now, trust me, there will be times when people will try to say something is not right, and it's really not a problem.
Right, legalism.
So you have to have that discernment and know when God is speaking.
Yeah.
You know, because some people are just going to say,
everything's wrong.
Yeah. Take them earrings off. You ain't supposed to. Look, I need these earrings. You see this haircut?
Boy, you are silly. You silly. But even with that, you were a confident, beautiful young woman that, and the women, a lot of the doggone older comedians, like you saying, I'm not saying anybody took you on the road for any other reasons, but it's probably a little bit easier to take Chinitta on the road than it would be one of us rusty jokers.
Well, I think
because you had a huge male fan that like, yo, that's man, and I mean, big pretty white teeth,
big teeth.
Yeah. Hey, I was saying, big pretty white teeth.
Okay.
Dark skin. You were a unique woman on TV and in the industry at that time.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So you had to so a lot of that you had to transition from. Right. When I mean the whole a lot when you start making that transition, I guess it's costing you a whole lot. It's costing you some of the notoriety. It's costing you money. It's costing you making a transition, and so you can't necessarily come into, I guess, what would become Christian comedy, leaning on the crutch of or leaning on, hey, your beauty.
I never leaned on that anyway, because I never even saw myself like that.
Interesting.
And truthfully, this is like, no, this is a
Chinitta,
revelation to me.
Other comics, other people, I know they would tell you, hey, you're beautiful, you look this, you look that way. You didn't hear that from comics or either. You can't tell me comics wasn't like saying, look, come on now.
Well, listen, the thing is though, I guess you have to understand how I grew up.
Okay.
So I could hear stuff like that, and might be hard for me to believe. I hear you and I appreciate the compliment.
Wow.
But it's not going up
It's
here.
not resonating.
No, because I don't see myself like that. I'm okay with how I look, but I don't see what you see.
Interesting.
And that's just the reality of it. I thought I was more so getting booked because I didn't curse. I know I did a lot of colleges, and colleges pay well.
Pay very well.
And colleges at that time, they're different now, but colleges at that time, they didn't want a whole bunch of filth. They didn't want a whole bunch of cussing.
Yeah.
And so I was big with the colleges.
Yeah.
You know, and so that other stuff, I don't know anything about that stuff.
Okay.
You're talking about.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. But so when you make this transition, what's the moment when it's like, I'm all the way out? What's the moment when you say, "Hey, did you cancel bookings or did you service your dates?"
I was still under contract for a whole lot of bookings. I'm talking about I had bookings for like over a year out.
Wow.
But those bookings were really helping me hang on because I had come out of the world, but the church wasn't.
Yeah.
Wow. They weren't booking me yet.
Wow.
And so I'm kind of in the balance. Praise God, I had a whole lot of money saved. So I kept the bookings, but I did not do the material that they expected. And I remember people would yell out, "Do the trifling bastard, do this and do that." And I'm like, I don't talk like that no more.
You said that.
Yeah, I had to because they were literally yelling stuff like that out. And I remember being at Caroline's on Broadway. And man, it was rough.
Wow.
And I had 2 shows.
Wow.
For 2 nights.
Wow.
And I'm headlining.
Wow.
And I'm bombing. And, it wasn't good, but God would send somebody in each show to encourage me.
Really?
And
before the show or during the show?
During the show while it's going on, and they can see that I'm crashing, crashing and burning. And they're like, "Go ahead, sister, you okay? Praise God. Amen." You know, and then you got a table full of girls over here. "She ain't funny. We ain't come to see this," you know. And so,
so when material wasn't working, was it old material that you was trying to rewrite, or was it new material that was the new you?
It was old and new, and but without the stuff that they were used to hearing.
Got it.
No more N-word, no more trifling bastard. And those things were my signature.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, trifling bastard was kind of like almost like a pause point.
Yeah.
You like trifling
bastard. Yeah. Or stank,
and
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people came to see that and they're not getting that.
Yeah.
You know. And, you know, some shows would go okay. But I remember that one at Caroline's like it was yesterday because I remember going to my room and just crying. And I remember putting on the Mary Mary song. You know, I know I Can't Give Up Now. And I would just cry. Wow. You know, I couldn't wait until that weekend was over.
Wow. And how many dates did you have like that? And were you working at this time, in this transitional period, were you working mostly comedy clubs or more colleges? Oh,
I was doing that because I was being booked by an agency in L.A. with Chris McNeil.
Oh, yeah.
He kept me on the road. And
was it ICM?
Yeah, so I had like I had different agencies booking me. And like I said, a lot of the contracts and deposits had already been sent out and stuff. And so, but it kept me, like I said, because, you know, these churches are not booking me because they remember me from this. And so they can't trust bringing me because I don't know what she going to say.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even be mad about it because I had planted a lot of bad seeds. And so, you know, this is the harvest.
So did Small Fry transition before you did?
We are not sure who did before. We did it at the same time, but unbeknownst to each other. Right. Neither one of us realized that we were making that decision.
I remember we doing the Bay Area comedy competition, and the first round, Small Fire, I think she was made to the second round, and I remember her being in her hotel room, all the comedians at one hotel, and I remember Small Fire being in her, coming by her hotel room, and she, it was like a college dorm. Everybody, comedians in their rooms, the doors open. Right. Some, so it was like I walked by Small Fire's room, and I'm like, hey, and so she's like, hey, come on in, and she was listening to tapes.
Okay.
She was listening to ministry tapes.
Yeah,
like,
preaching. Yeah.
I was like, what's that?
Right.
Now you mind, I was raised a Muslim, right. So I'm totally unchurched. Right. So I'm unsaved and unchurched. Right. So I know nothing about it. Right. I'm like, what's it? And I'm like, so and people like, hey, bro, I don't know what she on. She like, wow. she just like, she be in her room. She come out and do her show, do her round, whatever, and she back in the room. So but it's when I look back on all that, to see her in San Francisco, in Oakland, in the midst of, I guess she already transitioned on some level. And then to witness you, like I still can see the gate at the airport, and you stand there and you were like, yeah, I don't know, you was punting. I was like, so for me later on to make the same decision, it gave me a lot to reflect on. Right. So that said, when you made that transition, how did you transition to being a Christian comedian? What you serviced all your dates? And then after that, was it just like, hey, I'm reaching out to churches, or I'm showcasing, or I'm trying to go to?
I actually didn't. I definitely didn't do any of that because I was so used to people calling me.
Got it. Right.
I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't have to.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to do that, and so that hurt me a lot because people didn't know. A lot of churches didn't know that I had made the transition, and so I'm used to not having to pick up the phone. That wasn't something I had to do. And I remember having a big tour coming up, and it was me, Miss Laura Hayes.
Wow.
Who else? I'm not sure who else, but it was like the top women at that time. And I was asked to be on too. And so I said yes, but I was conflicted in my spirit.
Got it.
And a friend of mine was like, well, you can be a light on the show. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe I can, and maybe it doesn't make sense. Then like a week later, I got a call back saying, okay, Chocolate, we need to know, because we know you changed your life. Now, do you plan on doing the old stuff, or you plan on doing the new you? I say, it's a new me. And so then I got taken off the tour.
Wow.
And I felt like, truthfully, I wasn't even mad about it because I felt like God made that decision for me because I couldn't make it.
Got it.
I wasn't strong enough to make it.
Right.
So I really wasn't even mad about it.
And when that happened, was that a big financial hit, or was it like you were already good?
I was already good.
Okay.
I had a lot of money saved up, and like I said, it worked out for me because I had a lot of money saved up. I still had a lot of dates that had to be, and so the money dwindled, but it dwindled slowly. Like you go from making almost $600,000 one year. And then you're down to, let's say it went down to 300,000. Okay, and it goes down to 200,000.
Right.
And so, and then it goes down to, and so for a few years I was still okay.
Got it.
But then it got real. Then it got real. But I made that choice. Now, here's the thing: when you choose Christ, you have to understand. Yeah. You don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And that choosing Christ, you have to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, right.
You know, it has to be for the right reasons, and that situation was me and God in that car that night. It wasn't somebody pumping me and prying me to receive Christ as Savior.
Right.
It was a decision that I made that night in that car. Okay, God, you show me how to do this for you. Right. And I'm all yours. Right. And from that day forward, it was me and him. And so my thing is this, it wasn't for any other reason other than me saying, okay, I hear you, God, I choose you. Now, when the hard times come, you gotta stand on what you believe.
You gotta stand on it. Yeah.
If you came to Christ for anything other than the fact that you love the Lord and you want to do this His way,
right.
When things get shaky and you on your last dime and you about to lose your house or you lose your house,
Right.
God, is God still good?
Yeah.
Or do you want, till this day, I still get people talking about, you know, you ever think about going back to secular? No, I don't.
Right.
And I wouldn't fit in even if I tried.
Right.
I so belong to Jesus.
And at what point in the process did you become comfortable with that?
With belonging to Christ,
right? But not just belonging to Christ, but comfortable, solid on the fact that if I never hit that level of comedy again, I'm cool with that.
I think the night that here's the thing: God tells you to count up the cost, and I remember thinking to myself, and God forbid, but if this gets so bad that I got to sleep under a bridge, God forbid, I still choose you.
Wow.
I don't want it to get that bad.
Right.
But it has gotten pretty bad. I lost my house. I lost one of my cars. I had to tell them, come pick this up. I can't pay for this.
Wow.
You know. Wow. It's funny how repossession go, because if you call them and tell them come pick it up, they begging you to keep it. But if you calling them, if they calling you talking about when you gonna make this payment, you know what? If you can just wait, then they gonna come and get it.
God.
Right. So,
dang.
But if you calling them, child, they gonna tell you. I say, listen, y'all better come and get this car.
That's so to anybody that's the strategy. Tell them come get it. Tell them, no. Let me turn you over to this department.
Right. Yes.
Okay. So that's an interesting point right there, because I think even myself, having lost a lot for the sake of doing it God's way, and again, I want this conversation to be about you, so I'm not going to my thing.
No, yeah.
But I think when you say the churches that a lot of churches at the time were not open to you because of, and you had, several episodes of comedy.
Right.
You know, Def Jam library out there.
I couldn't be mad at them. But at the same time, Mace came out and they had him in their videos and they had him on their stages and,
But so to that point, I think that, to me, I've said this before. I think the body of Christ, the kingdom, particularly, I'm just going to come straight down the street, the black body of Christ, the black church, I think we missed an opportunity in terms of Christian comedy and with impact, the broader implications of that was for the entertainment industry, media, arts, and culture, even economically. And then the same thing, I believe, with holy hip hop. I think even was a bigger opportunity missed there, because I don't think a lot of people, particularly us in the kingdom, African American Christian adults, didn't realize how much culture was affecting our children.
Yeah.
So that said, do you feel as though that period of time where people are like, chocolate?
Right.
Sunday morning?
Right.
Chocolate?
Right.
For the women's conference?
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was that like during that time? Was people just like, oh no? Or was it people like, well, we'll see, or what was that? Because I mean, I know what my process was, but I'm always interested to know what other comedians, particularly you. Again, you're not saying you're a solidified, established comedian, established. You allow me to say secular comic, right? With a lot of notoriety, but then you come into the kingdom, and you sold out, like for real. Like, and I'm not just saying this because me and you here, or the fact that me and you friends, because you're right here. I'm saying it's for real talk. You turned down a lot of money that a lot of comedians would not have turned down. Right. You're like, hey, look, I'm going to go and get this money. But you said, I'm good with that.
Right. Yeah.
Did the church know that?
I don't know what the church knew, but I will say this. It did hurt. It hurt bad. And I cried a lot. But I kind of understood, because it's just like when Saul became Paul and he began to preach the word of God.
Yeah.
And he's going to preach, and people like,
you know what that is?
The same Saul Paul who was killing people.
Right.
Yeah. And so I understood, but it still hurt. It hurt.
Take me to a time where somebody either turned you down, took you off a program, or just didn't book you. Where it was a gut punch? Because I know I've had them.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, you hear things.
Yeah.
Or you know that you didn't get booked because of this, or I just know her from BET, or I just know her from Def Comedy Jam. Well, she's changed her life now, and I remember being at one of the Dr. Bobby Jones gospel retreat, and he was announcing, we have a comedian coming up, Chocolate from Def Comedy Jam, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I know he called me Chocolate, and I heard somebody who was in one of the choirs behind me. He didn't know I'm sitting in front of him. Dr. Jones is talking about me on stage, saying Chocolate, but he doesn't know that that's me.
Yeah.
And I hear him saying, then behind me, is she a stripper? So I understood. It hurt. It did hurt, but I kind of understood.
And I think a lot of times folks don't realize when a comedian makes that transition. Yeah. Just like anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're a mechanic and you come into the Lord.
Right.
Of course, your livelihood isn't dependent upon.
Right.
And
I'm a single parent.
Yeah. I think a lot of times particularly when you know what you gave up, when you know the price that you're paying now, and then I remember, I've told this story. I'm going to tell it in front of you. I know you done heard me tell it 1,000 times. That's an overstatement, but it's been a lot. Eunice and I go down to the Bobby Jones conference, South Florida. First of all, nobody knew how we got down there. We were so broke because I had stopped doing stand-up. I stopped doing secular comic. I'm operating as a Christian comedian, getting sporadic here and there. Eunice and I got down there on $125 in gas and hotel.
Right.
So my homeboy Yoma Edwins gave me and Eunice $125 to go to this conference. Right. We went down there, and what we did was we had enough gas to get down there. Yeah. We had enough money for one night at the hotel, or maybe 2 nights at the hotel. I can't remember what it was. And then we then went and got a loaf of bread, some water or something like that, and some turkey. And I think we got some cheese.
Wow. And
that's what. So everybody, man, let's go get something to eat. And we like, nah, we gonna go back to the hotel. We just kind of we got enough money to gas to get back to get to the event. I think the event was in the hotel, but I remember you. I remember I went down. I was in. Nobody knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But I was trying to get stage time.
Right.
At the Bobby Jones conference. Shout out to Dr. Jones, providing a platform for young artists. And I remember you saying, hey, man, you said, hey, I got a set coming up. She said, I want to give you my set.
Yeah.
I was like, huh? She said, you said, take it. And you took me to whoever it was, walked over to whoever it was, and you was like, I'm gonna give him my time on the upcoming showcase. I'm like, this is a TV showcase now.
Yeah.
This ain't just a showcase in front of the audience or the industry people. This is a TV showcase. And gave me your set. Had a phenomenal set, recorded the show. But I remember I was like, wow. And the reason why that blessed me, because not to the level of you, but I was getting Unissa was hitting the same roadblock because people saying, but didn't he do Def Comedy Jam? What are he talking about? AC Green, being a virgin, and all that stuff. So it was jokes out there that was hindering me getting opportunities.
Wow. And
so for you to say, hey, bro, take my slot.
Yeah.
I'm like, who does that?
Right. Yeah.
I'll never forget that. That blessed me. It touched me, and it was one of those moments, one of those God moments where God's saying, see, hey, I see what you're doing. Yeah. I know your heart. Yeah. And I'm giving you favor with someone who has influence, who's at another level, and who's opening the door. Yeah. That's what that was for me. And I so appreciate that.
You always tell me that. Yeah, you always let me know about that because I didn't realize what was going on.
Yeah.
That weekend, but Dr. Jones would always invite me and give me stage time and what. And actually, I always like to thank him because he was one of those people who did embrace me.
Yeah.
And when he would bring me into those, and he gave me a seat at the table. And when he would bring me in and introduce me to all those people, then doors began to open up. So I'm always grateful to him.
Yeah, wow. It's leveraging influence. Yeah. It's endorsement. Yeah. It's saying that this person is somebody that can be trusted.
Right.
So you've had a consistent, solid stance in terms of Christian comedy, unlike a lot of people. And what I mean by that is, I've never seen you compromise your Christian comedy, right? Yeah. I've never seen you say something. I'm like, I never seen you say something over here that you wouldn't say over there. Right. You know what I'm saying? So what's been the challenge? Because I think it's almost like for us now, a lot of comics, are much more, I wouldn't say lenient. That's not the right word. I'm gonna go to you and Griff our podcast. But before we get there, what's your stance in terms of the state of Christian comedy?
The state of Christian entertainment, period. I can only speak for the Black community. It's hard to watch. So many of us want so desperately what the world has. And not that God can't bless us like that. Right. But when we're compromising our standards to get those things, it shows that we can't be trusted, and that those things would only ruin us. Because we're doing whatever we can to get them. Sometimes I see people post things. Sometimes I see Christian entertainers post things that they know is very inappropriate, and I'm almost certain that they do it to get a response. People care more about being viral now.
Wow.
Than they do about being, committed to Christ and showing him, being a light.
Right.
They would rather have people questioning their walk, and keeping them relevant, keeping them viral. Wow. And it's hard to watch.
I saw something. I don't really know the guy too much. I'm not going to call his name, but it's a gospel Christian artist who is young and is ascending, and I didn't even know something happened. Some type of mishap / scandal type situation happened. I'm a person who avoids gossip.
Mm-hmm.
So any of these dudes out here who got these channels talking about folks stuff, I'm like, I hate that type of stuff.
Right,
So I avoid it. So a lot of times I don't know when something's happened. But I saw the guy. He was on a general, talk show. He was on Tamron Hall's show, and I was like, okay. So it kind of, I was like, man, there was a time when if something like that did happen, you dare not talk about it.
Right.
But it's almost like this is trending, so let me scale it.
Right.
Let me benefit from it.
Yeah.
But my issue is that I feel like the body celebrates that today.
But see, that's the thing. It's hard to watch. And I don't know if I want to say the body.
Factions in the body.
Yeah.
Areas in the body.
A lot of people have been hypnotized by the culture, and they want to be in the culture, and they want to be in the kingdom.
At all costs.
You have to choose.
Yeah. Oof.
You have to make a choice. And I talked about this last week in our broadcast, where we don't. This scripture doesn't come up much, but in Philippians 3, it talks about being an enemy of the cross.
Yeah.
And I like to talk about that scripture because I was one. I was one out there professing Christ and living like the devil. When you do that, you're an enemy of the cross. Yeah. You're making the cross look bad.
Right.
And we have to be mindful of who we represent.
Right.
Now, if you're going to do you, then do you.
Yeah.
You're not a Christian, you are youing.
Wow.
Wow. That's okay. God says I need you to either be hot or cold. But this lukewarm stuff, you're insulting my intelligence is what you're doing.
Right.
Right. And so please, by all means, I'm not mad at you if you're cold.
Right.
But you need to choose. Don't insult my intelligence. I've told you how to do this. I've given you 2 ways. Choose life or death.
Yeah.
I've told you which one to choose. I've given you the answer to the question.
Yeah. And I think probably what the truth of the matter is a lot of artists, particularly younger artists, they don't have the experience that you've had saying, nah, I'm good.
Right.
I'm gonna turn that down.
Yeah.
So the whole situation with you and Griff the other night. So how I came, of course, I like your live. I like your you and Donald's live and Felicia. So I think I've been on there one time before because how long have y'all been doing that?
I think this is only 6 episodes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm beating my glasses up. That's how shocked I am. But what I like about it was the Christian clean gospel comedy community is there.
Right.
Dialoguing.
Right, yeah.
Interacting in the comments. And nobody's coming like, well, I got to be on the show. It's like, no, I mean, the first time I came, I was like, oh, this is dope. And I started commenting but the night that the second time that I saw, I think y'all took a week off, and then the next Tuesday, I came up, and so Jaleel, my son who's actually directing right now,
right?
Me and Jaleel were over there, and we were in that room, and he was about to film something. He was about to take some pictures, so I was giving him a haircut.
Okay.
So I said, oh. I pick my phone up, so I'm gonna turn my phone on and watch the podcast while I'm giving him a haircut. Right. So I missed the whole entire first part. So if you, I don't know how long you and Griff's conversation was, but if it was 90%, but I caught 10%.
Okay.
Maybe 10%.
Okay.
It wasn't 3 minutes.
Okay.
And then Griff said, "You know what, Jock? You know what? I'm done," or whatever he said. And so me and Jaleel was like, "What the heck just happened?"
Right.
So
right.
I kind of like,
right.
I picked the phone up and I said, "Oh, so what? Like, how did it get started?" Because to this day, I have not seen the beginning of the interview. I've only seen comments. several people called me that night. Of course, I came on later and just kind of interjected into the conversation.
And I appreciate you doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, because I thought it was kind of contentious in the comments. Yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, but kind of, what's your take on it, and what's your thoughts about the whole conversation?
Well, my take on it is, because the thing is, you would have to see the other episodes before then. Mm-hmm. And it was very obvious that we came on here to combat this lifestyle of, I'm going to call myself a Christian comic, but I'm going to do what I want to do.
Okay.
But I'm going to play Christian comic to get in these churches, but I'm a, live how I want to live. And so, we're not only that, we're concerned about souls. We're concerned about how you represent the faith, and so it was very clear what our platform was about. That was never any ambiguity about that.
Yeah.
So he hit me one day and asked me, could he come on the show?
Okay.
And I was like, absolutely, and so then a couple of days later, so he didn't say anything after that. Griff and I were real close, and so, normally there would be some dialogue or whatever, and so then I hit him a couple of days later and said, now, you sure you want to come on the show? Because, this show gets kind of controversial because some of the comedians will say something that they might not agree with or whatever, and then they call you. So, or they call another comedian. But what was happening was conviction was setting in.
Got it.
And some of the comedians would reach out to us and say, okay, you said this tonight, and now I'm feeling really convicted about such and such and such. So God was doing a great work.
Got it.
So then, I hit him again to say, are you sure you want to come on? And he was like, oh, absolutely. I said, oh, okay. Sound like you're trying to bring some heat. So I'm not sure what his motive was, And so then when he gets on there, now, of course, I will say this, that I could have built up to the question.
Okay.
And I did not do that.
Okay.
At that point, I think we were maybe 4 shows in.
Okay.
So I'm new to this. I don't, And then, truthfully, I felt kind of backed into a corner because I was asking questions that I was getting answers that I didn't expect. And so,
And to tell everybody what the name of the podcast live is.
The name of the live broadcast is At the Table. And it started out as Christian versus clean comics. We are not the same.
Wow.
And
that is so Chinitta Morris.
Well,
if y'all know Chinitta Chocolate, whatever, that is such a straight down the street question statement. Because
you know what, we were getting asked this question a lot. Well, by just regular people.
Got it.
Well, aren't they the same thing? What's the difference between Christian and clean comic? So the first few broadcasts, we made it very clear, and people was like, "Oh, okay, I ain't see it like that."
Yeah.
And so then Griff comes on, and I said, "So you know what the podcast is about?" And he's like, "Nah, I ain't never seen it." And so that threw me. Because I'm like, well, nah, I just want to come on because, and I'm not mimicking him, but so he was like, I just wanted to come on because I love you. I just wanted to support you. And so then he goes on to say, I'm not no Christian comedian. I don't do labels. I ain't none of that. And, and so he's saying all of this stuff and it was almost like, and I could be wrong, but it was almost like to undo a lot of the stuff that we were making progress in.
Okay.
And, so the question came up about the comedy club, you know, and it's been a valid question. You know, you're on a gospel radio show, you profess Christ, you open a comedy club, and it's not Christian, it's not gospel, you know, or matter of fact, it's the total opposite. And so that was the question, and he felt attacked. And attacking him was not something I had planned. That was not. And he said, I ambushed him. I didn't. He asked me to come on. You know, if anything, I have to protect what we've already put out there. You know, and I think this was just the way the enemy was trying to tell these comics, do what you want to do. Don't listen to them, you know. You can get money, and, you know, you ain't got to be putting labels in. But let me tell you something. People want to villainize labels. But, baby, if you don't put labels on stuff, you have chaos.
Wow.
People, if you go in your house and take the labels off of everything, there's going to be chaos.
Wow.
So you can't say that we don't need labels, and especially in this day and time. Because if you go into a bookstore and just pick up a book and it doesn't have a title on it, you can wind up reading something that you had no desire to read. And it could lead you down a dark path. We need labels.
Let me give my thought on this. I have long said that I think that for me, I am a Christian comedian. I don't have a problem with being called a gospel comedian.
Right.
That, you know, I remember I had a friend of mine, he was like, so explain the gospel side of it. You know, 'cause the gospel is based on John the Baptist, and John the Baptist professed the gospel and preached the gospel. I said, as a comedian, I said, there's a level of ministry that's clear in what we do. And I've always had to defend in many ways, whether it's in secular spaces or in gospel or Christian spaces, the value in what we do. I've had a huge remnant and benefit of pastors who saw it clearly as what we're doing as ministry. And those pastors supported, utilized, and greatly was a great benefit to myself as well as you and others who profess to be that.
Right.
I think that I always tell people, I say it's a personal decision.
Right.
I say, because I said, if that's not who you are, I said, that's fine.
Right.
I said, the key is recognize that if that's not who you are, but then you either say that in the moment or you're not, it's perceived. Right. But that's not actual.
Right.
I say that can get murky, that can cause problems. Right. And I say ultimately what happens is a comic who is a secular, when I say secular comic who cusses. Right. Tonight I'm clean. Right. For this particular show. Right. But you say something in the middle, in the moment, that is a problem. Right. Or that's offensive, I should say. Or somebody goes to your page, so you were spotless that night. Yeah. Then your Instagram is like, it does cause a problem. It does. I said, it'd be no different if somebody who was a hardcore, hard right Republican is out there talking your hard right, Christian nationalist type of talk, and then over here, you're liberal. Right. That's confusing.
That's hypocrisy.
It's hypocrisy. Yeah. I said so whatever your convictions are, you have, as a Christian, you have to live your convictions based on the word of God, based on your relationship with God, and based on the assignment. I always tell people this right here. I say, what is your assignment?
Right. That's exactly right.
So if your assignment is not to be a Christian comedian or be a gospel comedian, you don't see it as a ministry, I say fine.
Right, that's right.
Fine. If you just do it clean, I say I don't have a problem with the dirty comedian who cusses. Right. And you say, hey, this particular show, because I book comics here and other places who are not quote unquote Christian comics. Exactly. But you respect this stage because of what we do and the value you stand to hear. Right. So that's been my take on it. And I know different people come at it with a different perspective, point of view, different convictions, different assignment. And but I always say this right here. I say I don't push off what I do.
Right, exactly. But we made that clear from the very onset. We're not coming on here telling y'all to call yourselves Christian comedian. Because what you need to understand, many of you are calling yourselves this, and you don't look like this. Your brand does not match your product. And I had to get on another Christian comedian promoter who has a Instagram page up that's Christian Comedy Network, but you go down the thing and it's like 5% Christian comics, and the rest of them are dirty comics.
Wow.
I said,
doing dirty material, or just dirty comics doing clean material?
Dirty. Well, they'll clean it up for the church that he's bringing them to. Got it. And my thing is, dude, your brand does not match your product. You can't go out here and say you're and advertise Caterpillar tractors, and they get there and it's John Deere.
Right.
You can't do that. And then, well, you don't know the ministry that's going on with, okay, then post the pictures of that, because the flyers I'm seeing are of people who don't do Christian comedy. Your platform is called Christian Comics, and you're not booking Christian comics.
Wow.
You're booking somebody who decides not to cuss for a night. So here's what happens. And see, a lot of the pastors don't know that. So this was also to educate the pastors as well, because these pastors are trusting these so-called Christian promoters, not knowing that they're just grabbing folks off the street and say, hey, don't cuss tonight. So then you bring these comedians up in here with all kind of spirits going on in my pulpit, and they're struggling not to cuss. Then the show don't go that well because they normally get to cuss. And then when they see the show ain't going well, they say something off color. And then we, as Christian comedians, look bad because you got imposters up there.
Wow.
And so you're making all of us look bad.
So let me say this. That's something that I've always talked about with comics, maybe not in a public forum, but because what a lot of folks don't realize, when a church said we don't book comedians, in most cases, it's because somebody came and did something crazy. Yeah. So now they don't want nobody.
Right. Exactly.
And so it's like, oh yeah. No, last time we was here, such and such came and he said this, and pastor, he is staunch.
Right.
So it's like, okay. So I fully get that, and I'm with that, and you're right. When people present themselves to be something that they're not, I don't care if you're the biggest heathen doing it. Just I respect every comic who say, well, you do what you do. Right. This is who I am. But if you say, hey man, I want to come over, I can do some church shows. Right. Yeah. Okay, you can. Yeah. But there's a price. There's a cost. It may not be to you. It could be to somebody else. Right. That said, do you think that when a comic is making that transition, because I was there, there was a time when I was going back and forth, I was struggling, trying to figure it out. Do you think that we run the risk, or you run the risk, of doing something similar to a comic who's making that transition, that's similar to what we might happen to us in the body, where we were not open? When, like, nobody came and said, hey man, this is how you do it, or hey sis, this is how you do it. Right. Hey, why don't you do it? I mean, I tell people, I had the benefit of a pastor who said, when I say I'm coming out of comedy clubs, I'm doing Christian, he said, all right, okay, you need to do a show here. I'm just gonna open the doors up, and we're gonna promote it, and you just take it and do it. And I was recording the album. Right. And so, but it was support from the church, support from the kingdom, support from my leader who knew my heart. Right. Do you think we run the risk, if a person is, I'm not talking about per se Griff per se in this part of the conversation, do we run the risk if we tell another comic who's making that transition, who may be struggling or just may be seeking, do we run the risk of ostracizing them or hindering them by not bringing them in and maybe teaching them, as opposed to saying, no, keep them off the show?
No, I definitely not saying no, keep them off the show. The problem is, these weren't situations where anybody was struggling to come to Christ or even asking. You have so-called Christians, you call yourself a Christian, you're a promoter, but you're going out and getting all these comedians that you know ain't even trying to come to Christ. And so, yeah, if they're struggling or if they have questions, you got to be very, you got to handle that very delicately.
Right.
And I understand that because, yes, I've been there. I've been hurt by, not being booked, knowing that I've given my life over. There was no struggle. I've made this decision.
Right.
But no, these are just opportunists. And then you see we made this clear too on the broadcast. We're not talking to babes in Christ.
Yeah.
We're talking to those of you've been saved 10 years at least. You know better. And you're out here doing stuff that you know you should not be doing. You need to choose. You need to choose. Now here's my stance on this. This is my father. This is your father.
Right.
If you had siblings, you've seen your parents make grave sacrifices to make sure that their children have the best of the best, that they are secure, they are protected, they have everything that they need, even if it's not the best of the best. And your siblings go out and act like it don't mean nothing. And they're all willy-nilly with how they treat the family name and the things that they're out in the streets doing, knowing that they know better. But, so what? You don't say nothing to your siblings?
No, you gotta say something.
Because, and not only that though, because here's the bottom line. How can I say I love you? And I see, the Bible tells us there's going to be a great falling away. I think it's very obvious that is happening now.
Yeah.
We do Christian comedy. At this point, or comics that do, comics that are Christian who do comedy, whatever you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not that person who can stand idly by and see you being sucked in by the culture. And not at least pull your coattail. Now, whether you want to take heed or not, that's on you. But you will not say that I didn't say something. If it had not been for God coming to get me, I had not heard a preacher who preached a sermon that made me want to come to Christ or live the way that Christ was calling for me to live.
Wow.
But that night, God himself came and spoke to me. We have a responsibility to hold each other accountable. We have a responsibility to rebuke each other when we see each other out of order. This is getting out of hand the way that this stuff is going. And it's embarrassing my father's name. And we have to say something.
Do you think that the way the conversation, again, I only caught the end of it. So by the time
I wish you would have went back and looked.
Well, I kind of want to have a conversation with you about it.
Okay.
Because I kind of want to come at it from a somewhat unbiased, because and the reason why I say that is because, like, literally, I came off your podcast and went right on to our Marriage, Faith, and Family podcast for church. So there was like literally 8:55. I think I told you I got to get off.
I got to go.
Yeah. But literally, so when I came off that podcast and then turned my phone back on, now it's late. I'm about to go to bed. Text. Phone call, missed call. I'm like, what the heck? So then the conversation that some people was like, well, I felt like it was, I felt like she came at Griff wrong. I felt like, what did somebody say? One thing that when I heard the quote, I didn't see it again. I was like, did she need to say that? And I was like, well, I know she did.
What was the quote?
The quote was, you said, I've known Griff through all three of his wives.
I did say that.
I was like, okay. I was like, dang.
Now, if that made him mad, my bad, because we play like that.
Right, and I could see that.
To me, that's like the Will Smith slap because of the bald head. Because we're comedians. So I don't understand. I mean, and I apologize. I did not mean to be offensive with that. Me and Griff go hard. We've been knowing each other for years. And so to me, I didn't think that, but I apologize if that did set him off or if he was offended by that.
I mean, and again, I have not talked to Griff since this conversation for no particular reason. I just have not. And, but I understand, from what the comics who I'm not going to necessarily name, it wasn't like it was anything malicious. It was just a dialogue. It was like, well, they thought that was, I guess on some level, some people took it as you being malicious.
No, it definitely wasn't malicious. There was no malicious intent in my heart. My thing was, even with the question, yes, I should have built up to it. I should have built up to that question because it was a valid question, but there was no build up. But at the same time, I'm asking him questions and he's saying everything but the answer to the question. So because at one point, I'm like, is he hearing, so I didn't know exactly what was really going on. It's like, are you trying to bring confusion or something? What are we doing here? And so before I knew it, the question had just come out. But no, there was absolutely no malicious intent in the introduction because that was the introduction.
Okay.
And I'm trying to be facetious. We're comedians. We joke like that.
Yeah.
He comes on. He talks about my bald head. There was no slap.
You're not bald headed, Chinitta.
Well, I mean,
I'm bald headed.
Well, that's,
you have a low haircut.
Yeah, but
that's a different. That's a huge difference.
And so we joked for a minute, and I'm sorry, comedians, we not doing that no more.
And to be clear, that's even the last time we was all on the show together, which is in North Carolina in Raleigh, backstage.
Right.
We was all me, you, Fry, Griff. Who else was on that show? We was cutting up. And backstage, particularly those of us, most of us are really comics. When I say really comics, we cut up too.
Right. Yeah.
And so when we get together, it's like if somebody walk in the room and you real deep, you like, because we having fun.
Right. Yeah.
I think that I hope that you and him are able to have a conversation since then, and at some point to clear up whatever y'all got to clear up. But then I think like the genre of comedy that we profess. Some of us profess it in totality. Some of us operate in it. Some of us are somewhat indifferent, right? I think at some point, I've always said this, and I don't want to take this because we way over time. But no, I'm saying what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm on your time.
Okay.
I'm on your time, and my cruise time is particularly your time. I told you to say about 45 minutes.
Okay.
We way over 45 minutes.
Okay.
Right now. But my point is though, I feel as though we got to get on the same page at some point, at least to a degree, because I feel as though it weakens us in the genre with us not understanding how to properly operate together. And it's to me, it's just sometimes I look at and I'm like, we could just do if we just did this or just did that, or even with this room, a lot of folks don't know the full reasons why we have this room. Right. It's more about, it's not just about business. It's not just about having a venue or having a comedy club type environment. Right. It's a whole lot more there. Yeah. And I feel as though we do ourselves a disservice not being on one accord because there's so much that we could do collectively, and not just for the comedians, but for the kingdom at large, by us operating together, working together, and being excellent, doing business, right, and doing ministry, right. So I mean, that's just my thing. Like, and I wonder sometimes now, particularly today, which to your point, it is a little. It's like, because I know comedians who operate in the Christian space who boldly cuss.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like.
So when you say because God is coming back for that one accord church, that church who is unified, correct. And that's what He wants us to be, but not at the expense of going along to get along. That's not what he's coming back for.
Right.
Because he calls us to hold each other accountable.
Right.
And I think that what happens in the body of Christ now, and I think the reason why things are in such disarray is because we've gotten to a place where we don't hold each other accountable. We don't correct each other. And, you know, people don't want to be corrected, and people don't want to be the one correcting anybody. And if you do try to hold somebody accountable, or, you know, then you're judging. And what we have to understand is, first of all, Christians can judge each other. You know, you can tell that we are not reading our Bibles because we don't even understand our role in what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to hold each other up, build each other up, hold each other accountable. And then so many of us have so much unconfessed sin in our own lives. How dare I say something to this person over here lest my sins be exposed? And so, you know, the Bible tells us, you know, you can't get the mote out of somebody else's eye when you have a plank in your eye. So the thing is, we all need to be cleaning up our lives so that we can be on that one accord. But at the same time, we are not to be that people who see somebody falling away, see somebody in sin, and who is professing Christ and not saying anything. You know, we when we do that, that blood is on our hands. And
it's confusing to people. My biggest thing is that it's confusing to unsaved or baby Christians or even younger artists who may be on the fence, you know, or processing whatever they're doing. Oh, totally sold out. I think it's confusing when you see somebody do something that totally is against the word. It's totally against how you're supposed to operate.
Right. And I think, you know, people say that, see, that's why people don't come. No, people don't come to church because they see the hypocrisy in the church. And they feel like, why would I come over there? Y'all doing the same thing we doing. That's where the confusion comes. When you see people doing what they're supposed to do, standing on what they're supposed to stand on, living the word, people they can't say nothing. The Bible even tells you, even when they try to slander your name, you know, conviction will come to them because they know that they're lying. They have to lie to throw dirt on you.
Right.
You know, so I think that we in the body of Christ, all of us need to grow up. We need to grow up to a point where we love each other so much that, I'm sorry, it's hard for me to sit here and see you falling away and not say nothing. Now, when I do say something, yes, I need to say it in love. But regardless to what, if you don't take heed, that's on you. And no, we're not, you know, nobody's better than anybody else. I've fallen. I've had my serious failures. Wrote a book about it. But the thing is, I understand grace, and I understand it more. And the enemy would want to take that sin and make me shut up out of my shame. But no. That's not going to happen. If anything, you've made me stronger because I love harder now. And I've always loved hard. And my love for you might make you mad at me. That's not going to make me stop loving you. I still want to see you do right. I still want to see you do righteously. And more than anything, I love my Father. So I'm not going to sit idly by, see that you name the name of Christ, and make the faith look bad. Even the Bible tells us, if a brother or sister is blatantly in these types of sin, don't accompany with them. Don't keep company with them. God is not doing that to be mean. He's doing that to say, this will not be tolerated. You're going to have to choose who you want to serve. It is so that you will feel conviction and be restored back to the faith.
Yeah, I guess the key is to figure out or allow the Holy Spirit to lead us when a person is at this is a grace point, when this is a person who is operating in a reprobate mind. You just have decided, hey, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I think I guess there's no way for you to really know. Well, I guess there's some ways you can really know, but I guess however, it's complicated and I kept saying that night because again, coming in probably at the tail end of the conversation, getting on the live, and I'm seeing all the comments. I think you have to. There was so many different perspectives.
Well, and a lot of those were his people too, and I didn't realize that until the next week. And I did offer a public apology the next week because I did not mean to make him feel attacked or anything like that. I did not call him because I did pray about it, and I did not feel led to call him. And then I find out that he had posted, "Don't call me." So wow. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I didn't call." You know. So, but I have no animosity towards him. I love Griff. I will always love Griff. I'm not that type of person. It doesn't just turn on and off for me. And but at the same time, Griff or anybody, if you come to me and ask me, I'm gonna tell you.
Hey, one thing about it,
you
whether you agree with it or not, you gonna know where she needs to stand.
Yeah, and truthfully, I prefer people to be that way with me. Don't smile in my face and talk behind my back, because a lot of people didn't understand that, but nobody was saying anything about it.
Interesting. Wow.
So it was just a question, and like I said, I could have built up to it. It could have been, but I was kind of caught off guard to be quite honest. And so, like I said, I apologize for making him feel attacked. A lot of those people in the comments were his people. I didn't even go back through. It was so many comments. I didn't go back through half of them, and some of them were mean.
Wow, it was comments. It was, and I mean, not necessarily. When I say I'm talking about more or less. I don't know a lot of the folks who were just watching or observing. Of course, I'm looking at the comics. There was even differences of opinion amongst comedians, which was I think probably at the point when I called in, because I text y'all late. I said, "What's the late?" Right. And it's because it was so many different perspectives amongst comedians. I was like, "Oh, okay," So, and I think at some point, those of us who do what we do, for whatever reason you do it, need to have a offline conversation at length, in depth. And it probably needs to be an ongoing one to determine what's the true heart behind it.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, whatever it is, whether you living out the word or whether you are struggling, going back and forth, or just in a totally I'm a do me type mindset, what's the heart behind it? Right. What's the layers? And I kept saying it that night. I said it's layered. There's the ministry side of it. There's the personal. There's the skill. Yeah. There's the comedic. There's the industry. There's the business.
But at the end of the day, if you call yourself a Christian, we are all held to the same standard, regardless to what your reason is for why you do it.
Right.
We are all held to the same standard, and this is. What a lot of people don't know is we get the calls too. We get the inboxes too of, what? I'm feeling conviction. I know I need to change this. Right. I know I need to do that.
Right.
And I feel like that was just the enemy trying to undo a lot of things that people were making progress in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like I love the room or the live, the broadcast, like I said, I've been on there twice. I thought y'all been doing a lot longer than that.
No. We just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, but I really enjoyed it because it was. I like the fact that you can go into a space and you see comics, and for me, I just like being a comic and we're talking and we're conversing, and if it gets serious, that's okay too.
Right.
But it's still we're I'm seeing folks who I know why they do this. Right. I know how long they've been doing this.
Yeah.
I know the level of which they are in their ministry and their career, and everybody just yeah. This is so for that I commend you. I applaud you. All three of you guys, because it's really an excellent presentation.
And we wanted that community too, because like with secular comics, when we were coming up, we had a community. We had, it was a family, you know. Yeah. And like with Christian comics, we're kind of all over the place. Yeah. And we're the ones who need to have that camaraderie.
So, okay, and this, I promise this is the last question. I just don't understand why that is though, because I tell people all the time, man, when we was coming up, it was like, I remember there was no like, now you had backbiting.
Right.
And people used to always even say Atlanta was the hating comedians capital of the world. That's particular comedians from out of town.
Oh my goodness.
Hating comedians in Atlanta. But and it was some of that. But I will say that to me that was like another wave that wasn't necessarily that early 90s or top, 89, 90, but to me the camaraderie that I had and still have with a lot of my secular comedians, I only have a small bit of that. I mean,
in the Christian community.
Yeah, I mean, comics will call me, hey, bruh.
Right.
Hey, you got your tape?
Right.
Comic viewers will say,
right, exactly.
Hey, bruh, tonight, did you know that they having auditions?
Right.
Now, we both trying to get the same little bit of spots.
Yeah.
Teddy's Live tonight, Atlanta. Right. Call Tina Graham. She's booking the showcase. Bob Summer's going to be there. Yeah. And everybody, and we all up there, all up in there, 50 comics deep. Right. Man, glad you made it.
Right, exactly.
Like.
Yeah, and we don't have that. And so that was another reason to keep this platform going, is to keep us engaged.
Yeah.
And so the pastors and the churches will know there are more than one or two Christian comedians.
Yeah.
And
who willing to call himself one.
Yeah, and so right, exactly. And so the thing is for them to not be deceived that these, because like you've had a couple of pastors that come on there and say, I booked this comedian, and then people went to their page and man, the filth that was on that page, and now I'm wishing I hadn't done that. And so it's to educate, it's to bring us together as a family. Yeah. And say, hey, and we might be struggling or going through some things that we need to talk to somebody. Yeah. Who do I talk to? Yeah. I don't know half, and so that's a way for us to come to get to know each other. LOL GCA. I like
shout out to Miss Claire
shout
Reese.
Them out and say, y'all, we need to be at these conferences. So, and that way we are in a community where we are held accountable. Put yourself in a position to be held accountable.
Well, that's a whole other conversation right there. Accountability. You have to have any type of mutual accountability. You have to first be accountable. Right. And that's something that a lot of comics.
Well, I mean, not just because you're in a position to be accountable doesn't mean that you have something you need to be accountable for. Mm-hmm. But have a community. Yeah. Don't forsake the fellowship of the other saints. Yeah. We need each other. Yeah. And we do this together. Right. And maybe you'll get more gigs if you know more Christian comedians or comedians that are Christians. Yeah.
And you understand. You understand the reasons why, we do what we do. Right. And you also understand protocol. You understand standards. Right. You understand, why you shouldn't do this or should do that.
Right. Because we're not having those conversations, and you have a lot of comedians who I think are well-intentioned, but they're falling away and they don't realize it. And they're more secular than they are kingdom.
Yeah.
And so that's why. And I praise God for the platform. I thank you so much for.
Yeah.
Man, you've done so many great things in your time in the kingdom, and you just God keeps using you to do great things. And I love you, because you're just an all-around great guy, great family man, and you keep on coming up with stuff to keep us engaged, keep us going, and you're a selfless comedian, and I appreciate that about you. You've always been such a great guy since I've known you. Wow,
I appreciate that. I received that, sis. You know how I feel about you. I love you. I appreciate you, and there is no question about who you are. You are consistent, and I
can say the same about you.
Praise God. And I understand that I know your heart, and I understand why you are a standard bearer, because it's required. Now somebody gonna look at it and say, well, who are you to say?
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
You have to, that it's a requirement.
Right.
Particularly when you say you do it for God.
Right.
When you say you do it for the kingdom. And if you want to come into this space,
yeah,
and this is not just a career move.
Right.
Because I didn't come into it for a career.
Right.
And neither did you.
Right.
So thank you for what you do, sis. And I'm excited about the future. Mm-hmm. I know we've been doing this for a long time. Yeah. But I'm excited about the future. I feel as though there's a remnant, there's a separation, the wheat and the tare.
Right.
And I truly believe that. And I'm not saying that to in any way come against any particular body at all. I believe that we're coming a time. Mm-hmm. We're in a time, not coming. We're in a time where God is designed to use all of us.
Right.
In what we do, and He's requiring us. Because this is a conversation He's having with me right now. He's requiring us to do what we do by faith.
Right.
Scared, whatever. But if you're really going to do it by faith, you can't even be scared.
Right.
You got to believe God.
Yeah.
And you got to really be sold out to His processes, His will, His steps, what He called us to do and how He called us to do it, hands down, bar none, without compromise.
That's right.
So I appreciate your stance, who you are, what you do, and thank you for that platform. And like I said, I love coming through on Tuesday night and listening and being a part of it.
I appreciate you being there. Yeah. Your input means everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Praise God. Chinitta Morris, aka Chocolate. Tell everybody what when the podcast comes on again, and then whatever else you got going on.
Tuesday nights at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time on Facebook Live or YouTube. We're trying to get more platforms. I'm not very tech savvy, so trying.
She's saying this when she got a room in her house that's like a set, a nice camera, and you clearly working. Now who runs the is Angel? Is it Donald?
That's me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Because he's worse than me.
Oh really?
Yeah, he's worse than me.
Hilarious.
So yeah. And prayerfully some tours coming up next year.
Okay, praise God. So. Yeah. Still got. I'm telling you, I saw it tonight. Still got a whole lot more jokes. Still a whole lot more jokes.
Yeah, we had fun tonight.
Thank
you for having me.
Thank you, sis.
I had a great time.
Thank you.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Praise
I love
God.
it.
Praise God. Thank you, man.
Comedians, listen. You want to be in this room. This is a room you want. Don't listen. Don't worry about. It's not a whole lot of money. Clubs don't pay a lot. You already know that.
Right.
But this is a room that you want to come to.
Wow.